Oblivion, darkness, stillness, total rest. The tarmac is hard and cold underneath my outstretched body. It was a few minutes at most. Awareness slowly floods back into every part of my body, and I sense Rich standing near watching over me. I open my eyes. It is just a dark shadow, sporadically illuminated by the lights of the trucks passing on the road behind, unsure what he can do to help, other than to watch and to wait. Without Rich and without Upendra, I wouldn't have made it this far, but neither of them can actually run for me. Despite their support, despite their companionship, I feel completely alone. I have to fight the tiredness, the urge to stay lying down, the overwhelming need just to shut my eyes. It's time to lever myself back onto my feet, to force my limbs to move, and to head onwards into the darkness of the night. I'm in Nepal and running from Everest Base Camp back to Kathmandu. Over 60 hours have passed since I started my journey high in the wild beauty of the Khumbu, and less than 15 kilometers remain until I reach the gates of the stadium in Kathmandu. It's a distance less than I typically run every day, and yet it feels almost an impossibility. We're so near, yet so far away. I draw slowly further from the protective comfort of our bus, knowing that they will be watching as my figure fades into the distance. I start to turn inwards, withdrawing all my senses, blocking out all the external stimuli, and blind to everything but that narrow stretch of road immediately ahead within my gaze. I focus on moving forwards, riding on the rhythm of my breath. Why hours into the third night am I still asking my body to run? It's not really so much the physical tiredness. That's almost an old friend. We know how to work together. I know how to use it, to ride it through, to go beyond it. No, it's almost this primal need simply to shut my eyes. It's instinctive, it's unrelenting, and it refuses to be ignored. So I give in, for moments at a time. I shut my eyes, and I keep moving. My feet and my legs relentlessly carrying me forwards. The world and all of time has been distilled down into this one moment, now. Nothing else exists, nothing else seems to matter. All that there ever was and all that there ever will be is embraced by this one moment and my struggle to keep moving through it. The focus is absolute. It dissociates me from the rest of my journey. I have no memory now of where it actually all began. I have no memory now of the seed that was sown in a long conversation with Rich one evening weeks before, or of the underlying impetus already contained within the effort of my 2 previous attempts. I have no memory now of the calm that settled over me as I finally felt the freedom of starting to run, having overcome the odds even to arrive at Everest Base Camp. And no further need to question myself then over preparations made or unmade. Simply one remaining demand, just to settle into the journey and to let it unfold. And that's where the challenge lay, simply to let the journey unfold, to be present and responsive to whatever it threw at me. Whatever those demands from the weather, the mountains, the terrain, or my own body and mind. And I have no memory now of the light dusting of snow, which had turned the rocky boulders of the glacial moraine into a magical wonderland, or even of the ease of those first kilometers, before hunger, thirst, and tiredness could lay claim to my attention. I have no memory now of enjoying the fluidity of my physical movement, despite that thin air of altitude, simply allowing my thoughts to come and go, dancing on the shafts of light. I have no concept yet either of the finish that will come. I have no concept yet of how the remaining kilometers could be subsumed one by one into the darkness of the night, washed away by the rain pouring down on us as we run through the near deserted roads, emptied of their daytime traffic and incessant buzz of life. I have no concept yet of the relief that will come upon touching the locked gate of the stadium, or of the strange anticlimax that will accompany the loss of purpose. The sudden realization that there is nowhere else to go, no need to keep moving forwards. I have no concept yet of that tiny group waiting to greet us. A couple of journalists with their cameras flashing, a couple of stalwart friends. And I have no concept yet of the depth of my gratitude towards Rich and Upendra for caring for me, for their companionship through such a large part of the journey, for giving up their time and effort to look after me and support me with no reward other than simply to be there for me. I have no concept yet of my realization that without Rich's support, I may not have taken the gamble to try again, or had the courage to keep going in a seemingly pointless endeavour when body, mind and emotions are screaming why. No, all I have is this one moment. The entirety of what exists and doesn't exist, of what has gone before and what is yet to come, is comprised in this one moment. Simply that. So this was a journey I made in the spring of 2013, completely at the other end of the spectrum to championship races or something like the UTMB. This was simply running for the experience, for making a journey, for the joy of running, exploring and learning. I actually set a new world record making this journey. It was a distance of about 320k, partly on the trail and partly on the road. And I'd run alone from Everest Base Camp to the roadhead at Jiri, and from there 2 friends, Richard and Upendra, came to support me. So it was a very solitary kind of challenge, just a simple foot journey. And nobody told me to do it. I made it at my own instigation for no other reason than simply seeing if I could do it. And nobody could make that journey for me. I would either complete it under my own efforts or not at all. And yet the support from Richard and Upendra gave me the strength to do just that. And I think it's somewhere on that last stretch of road back into Kathmandu that I came close to an understanding of what running has actually come to mean for me. It's really that overwhelming sense of presence, of being firmly rooted in the moment. And when you're really there in the moment, then that's a freedom. And that moment, of course, is the space between the known and the unknown. It's the point of possibility. And what we actually do with that possibility is our challenge. So, why did you actually come here tonight? What were you doing at work today? What's waiting for you when you get home? Whatever your reason for being here right now, just try to be here, now, because this is the moment that we have. So push all thoughts of everything else out of your mind. Forget everything that was worrying you before you walked in the store, and forget everything that happened during your day and what's waiting for you at home. Just be here, now. This moment is our reality, and we have the power to choose what it is. We don't always have a choice over the circumstances that we find ourselves in or the things that happen, but we do have a choice about how we react to them. Just over 1 year ago, I was there in Nepal when the country suffered an earthquake of 7.8, and then a second major earthquake, 7.3, just 2 weeks later. And reality changed in an instant, drastically and suddenly for very, very many people in Nepal. The world changed suddenly in moments from what was happy and normal to a terrifying uncertainty. So many lost their lives, and for others the life that they'd worked so hard to build was literally shattered, lying in rubble around their feet. I was in villages just north of Kathmandu, between the earthquakes, helping with relief. And what overwhelmed me was how people were still giving to us as we passed through the villages from the very, very little that they had left. And, swathes of this beautiful country were ravaged by the earthquake, other parts were untouched, but the people are resilient. They were still smiling, the children were still playing, and they were still giving from the very little that they had. They had an incredible ability to be right there in the moment, despite the hardship and despite the tragedy. So all the proceeds from my book right now are directed towards relief and rebuilding projects in Nepal. And longer term, all the royalties will be dedicated to encouraging endurance running and support in Nepal, because it's a place where opportunities are very hard come by, and they can be a catalyst for a much wider change. So reality has changed there for so many people, but being in the present, they're choosing how they react to it. So just remember that the best things will happen in an unexpected corner of a very ordinary day. There's no end to that. So just be present and remember that the choice is always yours. However reality changes for you, choose to go and find the joy. And enjoy your run tonight.